Hello, my name is Duncan, and this is the third video on my WorldBirds Android birding checklist application. In this video, we will explore some of what I've called the advanced features of the application. Not everyone will use these facilities, but if you do, there is some good documentation in the PDF files, and the short tutorial should also help you. I've listed the topics I will cover on the screen here. Many Android applications package the resource files up within a secure folder which you as the end user can't get access to once the application has been installed. Everything is being controlled by the writer of the applications. Now my WorldBird applications isn't like that. Everything is open. You do have access to all the text files used to load the databases and all the resource files. Once you've learned how to navigate your way around these folders, there's a lot of flexibility to add and change things if you wish. You don't need to do that, but if you do, the facility is there. Noting that if you do make your own modifications to things, they will be overwritten if you do an update from my published files. But if you want to make a lot of modifications yourself and do your own things, you can branch off and cast away into the night. That's rather extreme. What I will cover here is some of the more common things you're likely to do. That's the editing of the sighting logs file, so you can reload or bulk load or update records yourself. You can do this on Excel and reload it into the application. So if you have a pile of uploads which you want to copy from another birding checklist you've used in the past, there's an easy way of doing it. I'll also show you how you can add your own photos and bird calls, which is something many people may want to do. The update checklist facility is there if you discover that birds are missing from a checklist for a particular country. I've sourced most of my data from Avibase and it's pretty good, but even if it was 100% correct today, birds have wings and they tend to fly across countries and it could be out of date tomorrow. At some stage in the future, I'm likely to catch up with and I'll update the checklist, but if you're out in the field and you need to make an instant update yourself, this facility allows you to do it. I'll also explain what orphan species are, most likely to occur after there's been an IOC checklist update, and I'll show you what you can do if you find that your sightings have been split into new species and you've got orphaned sightings. Okay, let's start by talking about the editing of the sightings log file. Now, when you save your sightings within the application, they're written to the mysightings.txt file in the mylogs folder. So I've got my phone connected to my PC here, and we'll just browse into the internal storage, the WorldBirds folder and the mylogs folder. And you'll notice in the mylogs folder here, there are the mysightings.txt file. This is the current version. You'll also notice that there are ones labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are previous versions. So I keep, every time that you save a sighting, the current mysightings.txt file is labeled 001 and 001's labeled 002 and 002 is labeled 003, etc. So you've got the last 5 versions of your sightings log file just in case you ever have to go back. What we're going to do is we're going to do some editing on the mysightings.txt file. Now, what I do is I have another utility that periodically copies the contents, all the contents of the mylogs folder off to my Google Drive. As I said, it's very good practice to keep this is your own personal sightings file. Keep a copy off your phone in a more secure place, just in case you have an accident with your phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the editing of this file, but on my from my Google Drive site using Excel. Okay, let's open the My Sightings text file in Excel. What I'm going to do is do File, Open, and browse to Google Drive on my PC. As I said, I have the My Sightings folder mapped here. We don't see any files yet. Click on All Files. It is a text file, so this is the one we want to open, the current mysightings.txt file, and you can see the previous versions also listed here. When you go ahead to open the file, Excel will recognize that this is a text delimited file. It will recognize that the tab has been a delimiter, and that's all we need to worry about converting at the moment. Excel is not the ideal application for doing this. It does now respect the UTF-8 character set. If you have an older version of Excel, you need to be careful about that. Notepad++ is a better application, perhaps if you've got an older version for doing that, because you do need to resave. If you resave it and it doesn't, if it changes the character set, you lose some of the special characters. One of the things you do have to do here as well is Excel very automatically changes the format of the date and time fields. What we need to do is format this column to custom and set it to YYYY-MMDD. Exactly that. This is very important. And the same with the time field. Format cells, change them to custom HMM. Very important that you do that. Having done that, most things you do afterwards will be fine. So these other fields which you're able to edit, um, the index field and the country. These the important fields here are the IDX country field and the IDX species field. You need to get those from the other table. So if you need to do a lookup, and if you need a lookup for importing your data, you can see Norfolk Island has a different index field, New Zealand. If you scroll down further down, there'll be Australia, will be down there, got a lot of New Zealand entries there, Peru, etc. Different index for each country. Get those from the countries.txt file. Same with the species. If you're adding a species, the name's there for your reference. It's not that important. What is important is the IDX species number that must match. So again, you get that from the species.txt file. The IDX region and region, they will always leave them as 10,000 and region just named country. They're not used for anything. I may use them in the future. At the moment, they're just they're unused fields. But if you label them, yeah, they need to be there and they need to be labeled like that. Location, you're quite free to update. I've had this problem in the past where I've called the same place different names. Excel is a very quick way of going through and making all your names the same. You can quickly edit them to update them. And then you've got birding numbers. You can add your notes in if you want to. If you want to update the GPS fields with latitude and longitude, you can do so, but make sure you stick to the decimal format like that. Don't try and do degrees, minutes of seconds. That will cause issues. What we might do just to show that it works is to add another record in here. Why don't I just copy this previous record, add it here. Let's put a new date in here of 2024. Let's make it the 28th of May, time 1400, New Zealand, Foxton Beach. Let's call it test place, and let's make it a black-billed gull. So those, let's say there were one of them, and the GPS coordinates I will set to 0. This will just confirm when we load it in that in actual fact it has done what we wanted it to do. You can have made lots of updates. The important thing here is when we do file and we do a save as, you're going to save it back to my sightings, same name, overwrite it, but it is going to be called this, as it's got by default, a tab delimited text file. That is the important one. Don't use anything else. Anything else will cause things to explode in flames. That is what you need to use. Already exists. You want to place the file? Yes, you do. Now we will go back and we'll have a go loading it in just to make sure that everything works okay. Okay, back in the emulator, I've confirmed that that file has been correctly updated to my phone. Again, I've been using my little sync program to do that from my Google Drive back to the My Logs folder on my phone. If we go in at the moment in New Zealand and look on sightings, if we check all the sightings, you'll see that last date here was the 26th of April. What we have to do is we have to load the new updated My Sightings file here. So if we click on here, load, want to load it to, yes, the additional record, I can see it's in there because the record count has gone up. When we go back here to sightings and look at them all, you'll see that this record, which we put in on the 28th of May at 2 o'clock of a black-billed gull, is indeed there. So that's how you can load and delete and update sightings from the My Sightings log file. Okay, now let's have a look at how you add your own photos and bird calls. I'm going to show this by adding a photo, but the process is exactly the same for bird calls. Now let's say I have a nice photo of the little pied cormorant that I wish to add. Now, first thing is in the birding app, just check and check the family name, which I can't pronounce, Phalocrococordidae, and the 1089,000 is the index number for the bird. Next, get your bird photo ready. I've got one, it's my photo of the little pied shag that I have. I've set the resolution here, I think, to 960 by 640. A resolution of 800 by 600 or 900 by 640 is good. Larger files just tend to take up more storage space and they don't add very much value when you're viewing it on a small screen on a phone. Now the file name convention, this is description hyphen credit hyphen sequence number. So you can see what I've called it here, white-throated phase sitting. That's the description, hyphen D Watson, which is my credit, which is my name, hyphen 002, because there was already, I know, one photo in there. So what we'll do is we'll copy this photo and we will go across to, I have the phone connected to my PC. We go across to the WorldBirds directory to photos. We start browsing through here. We want that family name, Phalocrococordidae. We go into there. We'll after 1089,000, and you can see here 1089,000 and the English name as well to make it easy, little pied cormorant. So what we need to do is paste the photo in there. You can see there was already one with a hyphen number 001, and we call this one 002. Now, if you don't actually have to follow this, it just makes it a lot easier, as I'll show you when you view the photos in the birding app. If you can just call them anything you want, but you won't get a very descriptive name when you're back in the app. So if we go back to the application, here we are back in the little pied cormorant. We now go to photos, and hey presto, it's actually two birds. So that was the original photo, and here's the photo that I just added. So that's how quick and easy it is to add a photo. You prepare them all, then copy them across to the right file, following the naming convention for the files. The process is exactly the same for bird calls. MP3 format is generally the best one to use. If you have a call that you find on Zenocanto, copy it to your PC first. I tend to use Audacity to edit the photo, to trim the length and boost volume or do anything else that's required. Then give it a name with the same description, hyphen credit, hyphen sequence number, and copy it to the correct subfolder. Right, now we're going to look at the updating of checklists. Selecting it from the menu, Update Checklists. Maintaining a 100% accurate checklist of all the bird species of the world in each of the 270 countries and regions that we've got is actually really hard. I've sourced a lot of the data from Avivase, which is a really excellent source. But even if it was 100% accurate at a particular time on a particular day, birds have wings and they do fly around. And appear in new countries. So I don't always pick up all the changes when pieces are split from IOC. On a recent trip to Costa Rica, on the very first day of birding in the gardens of the hotel, I discovered that I didn't have the Veracruz wren on my Costa Rica list. Now, the birds, you can, if you get in a situation, you can still log birds using country all and correct it later, but it's rather inconvenient. So this update checklist facility is to immediately correct the checklist information in the species table within the program. It also, when you do that, it writes out the modification to a little file called mymods text file, and that sits in the mylogs folder so that you can back it up with your sighting logs file. So that if you subsequently reload the database using the DB load button, after the database is loaded, the mymods modifications are also loaded again afterwards. So ideally, I should have been informed and notified and corrected any errors so that when you do an update, the changes have been reapplied, but it's probably going to miss a few. So if you have this mymods file, you will have your same changes that you know need to make reapplied. You can also, of course, edit the information yourself in the species.txt file and reload it. All you have to do is find the correct species and country column, but that can be rather hard to do. So this, again, this checklist maintenance facility here, you can do immediately when you're in the field, and a change can be made. So let's say a roseate spoonbill has recently turned up in Australia. Type in the species here to select it, roseate spoonbill, and when you select it, immediately it poppies the panel on the left of the countries in which the roseate spoonbill is already recorded, and you can see it doesn't occur in Australia. So you've just seen one, it's just turned up. So select Australia and status of vagrant, and when you do set, bang, it's been added as a vagrant to Australia, and the mymods text file has already also been updated there. If you go back to the main checklist for Australia, you will now discover that the roseate spoonbill, come on, Australia, will be on the list. So if we search for roseate spoonbill, hey presto, it is now found in Australia, which it wasn't before. If we go back to the update checklist, obviously it wasn't, so I want to remove that. So you can get rid of it by long pressing here and deleting the entry, or you can also update it in here by setting the status to not found. That's the other way of doing it. And you can see here both entries are created in the mymods text file. You can again delete these entries here if they're no longer applicable by long pressing on them, or you can go into the text file yourself in the mylogs folder, and you can edit that file or delete that file completely if there are no more to be made. So hopefully you won't have to use this very often, but it is very quick and easy to do, to change the checklist information for each country if you do need to do it. Okay, now we'll look at the orphans facility. You get there in the sighting screen by going to the menu orphans. It's sort of hidden away because you won't use it very often. And there's two options on here. What are orphans? The issues I grappled with at the beginning was what happens to your sighting log files after there's an IOC update has come through, which reclassifies sightings that you've seen in the past. In most cases, there's no automated way of handling this. You're going to have to do something manually, and identifying what the birds are to change manually can be a bit hard, and this is where this facility helps. For example, when the Australian tern was recently split from the gold-bill tern in Australia, there isn't any application that can tell you which of your sightings in Australia and New Zealand which you've logged the gold-bill tern at should actually be the Australian tern. You'll have to update your sightings manually. So what happens if you've logged sightings for a species which has subsequently been combined or turned into a subspecies of another species? An example that happened here in the past was when the cattle egret was split into eastern and western. Now, in my previous checklist application, suddenly I had lots of western cattle egret sightings in New Zealand, which was clearly wrong. And that's because all my sightings were linked to the previous entry, which was which has now been called a western cattle egret. And I had to rename these to eastern cattle egret. So this orphans facility here is to try and help you identify these cases so that you can manually update your sightings. Of course, if you only just started logging birds, you won't see any one here, and you won't see any here either because all my listing is correct. So there are two options here. The not in my sightings means that this is a bird that you previously logged, but as are my sightings for, but it no longer exists in the main species list. It's been reclassified and probably as a subspecies of another bird. So what you'll have to do is you'll get a list of birds there in that case, which you will then need to go through manually and adjust. Find them in the species list and in the sightings list and change the species to the correct one. The not in country list is the one that you're more likely to see. This is when a new bird possibly, so you've logged a sighting which might be a new bird record for the country, or again, the species has been split and reclassified, and the name that you've logged as is no longer the correct one for the country. So again, you'll get a list of species there that's for which the sighting is incorrect, and you'll have to go back to the sightings and update them manually. So the save button here, if you click on that, well, that will write out the list to the output folder. So that if you have a large number of items to correct, you've got a reference list on your PC, which you can then go through and tick off one by one. So it's pretty hard to show examples of this. I could have manually created something, but it is quite hard to do. Really, you should only need to come back and check this after an IOC update has been applied, or if you've imported a large number of sightings from another checklist. I've only had to work through this a couple of times in the past, mainly when the western cattle egret, eastern cattle egret split was one previous example that I had to deal with. The ideal situation is that the list here, when you click on either of these buttons and it says no records, that's the ideal situation. Anyway, that's it for the advanced functions. That was all I wanted to go through on the list. Thank you again for tuning in and wishing you very happy birding with the application.